Oh hey, this is Dani, and the channel is You and Me Living Free. And I thought I would share today a story that I haven't shared before and let you know how I got to be on this adventure and be able to travel like I am in my minivan camper around the country. So if you've been following, then you know. And so I decided a while ago to take a year off work and to travel around and to not wait until I retired, but rather to do it right now. And I'm going to go through kind of the whole little journey so that I can put together the pieces of how it really came together. I know a lot of people would love to do the same thing, have the same dream that I do, but their circumstances are different. And so I can see that my journey started here about April 4th of this year, 2021, truly began like that was the last day of work on my job. So I quit my job. I'm taking a whole year to travel back and forth from Kansas City. I still have my home base. I'm not full-time in my minivan, but I'm taking extended trips. This trip I'm currently on is 7 weeks. So people dream of being able to take that kind of time. And so I just thought I would tell the story of kind of what went into allowing me to be able to do what I'm doing. So let me look at my notes and then I'll come back and I will try to make this not a long story, but a shorter, more succinct story and not get carried away. So here we go. So the first thing that happened on this journey really started a long time ago, and that was divorce. Like a lot of people, right? So it was about 13 years ago, 13 years ago that I got a divorce. And at the time, so we were married, we were both making good money, but we were spending more than we were making, right? And I wanted to get out of that. And then as divorce, honestly, a lot of times is financially just devastating. A lot of times for both parties. For the women, they tend to not live at the same economic level they were when as a married couple, which makes sense. You have two incomes going to provide for one household, and now you're each providing for two households. So it's very impactful. And for me, kind of financially and everything for me and the kids, it was really literally kind of devastating. I always had a really, really good job. And then in the last few years, even before the divorce, I stopped my kind of executive position and just went into something that was less stressful so that I could be around for the kids and all of that. So then the divorce happened and then you rethink everything. But what it did was, my point with telling you all this is that it changed me. It gave me a priority of living simply. It gave me a priority of setting the priorities, to deciding to, no matter how little I was making, to always live within our means, always living below our means so that we could be safe and secure. And so that really kind of was a pivotal thing. Number one, because of course if I was married, I probably wouldn't be doing this. And number two, because of the independence and everything. And number two, just because it started me down the road of what's really essential and what's not. You know, we didn't have cable at the house. We didn't, I think for a while, for almost a year, we didn't have even TV at the house. We just started to strip away things that were non-essential. And that was a big first step. Then the pandemic hit, okay? And so a lot of us were really and are really impacted by that. And so when that happened, I was having a dream of maybe a tiny house. That's what I thought. And I started the YouTube search like a lot of people do on tiny houses and all of that. And the more I thought about it, the more I was just not convinced it was quite for me. And then I ran into Bob Wells. Right? So like a lot of us, Bob Wells, Cheap RV Living, was a huge role model for me. He was a huge eye-opener for me. It was watching him was the first time I ever thought, you know, someone of my means, someone like me, could actually live this kind of lifestyle where they have the freedom to travel and to see these great places and to be in nature and to just live a completely different kind of life. So big thank you to Bob Wells. I know there's so many of us out here who owe the same debt. And so then I really started to think about all of that, right? And so the next step was what? related to the first step, which is living below my means, just having money in the bank, right? And one day I actually realized that I had enough money in the bank where I could actually replace my salary for a whole year, replace all the money that I live on for a whole year, keep the house that I rent, keep paying for things that my kids need, which they're older now, and they pay a lot of their own stuff, but some things I still provide. I still provide, you know, the cable and the internet and everything at the house, and heating and cooling and rent and all of that. So I knew I needed that. I had enough money in the bank, I thought, to support all of us, to support me doing the dream that I really had at that point, which was to travel the country and maybe work nomadically if I could work that out. And then another thing that happened, another little piece of the puzzle, is my son just turned 18. He just graduated from high school this May. And so that was another way that, you know, a lot of us, especially women, we go through this life, and we, at least I'll speak for me, I was a daughter, and then I was never really on my own at all. I didn't ever live on my own. I lived with my mom, and then I lived with my dad. They were divorced. And then I lived with my boyfriend, who became my husband. And so this is the first time that I've lived alone, which I really don't live alone. I live with my kids, but being in the minivan is the first time I've been alone truly. And so Thomas graduated from high school, and there was something inside of me that's just like, you know, when you have these kids, you bring them into the world, and so it is your responsibility to raise them. It's your responsibility to be there for them. And as he turned 18, my responsibility shifted. You know, it doesn't mean it goes from 100% to zero, nothing like that. He's responsible for his own life. He's a young adult, and that is really healthy for him to feel. But I wanted to still provide that basis for him of that place to live, but I didn't need to be there every single day. And so the realization of that gave me some more freedom, more and more freedom. At the same time, I was working a job where I was kind of underemployed as far as making money and as far as the position goes. And not only that, but I say that for the only reason I say that, underemployed, meaning making less money than is possible for someone with just a regular college degree to make, is because that job is easily replaceable as far as income, right? I could go out tomorrow or next month and replace that job pretty easily. Now, not only that, but the job was something that I was starting to dread, starting to really not enjoy. And so, you know, intuition is just leading you step by step, like, you're not enjoying this, it's time for something new. And then one of the final things that happened was that when I was on this job, it's a job where, let me say this, I don't want to be purposely vague, but I don't want to tell you what the job was. I have my own reasons. But I was talking to people every day who were kind of in crisis. I was talking to people every day who needed help. I talked to people every day who either they or a loved one or something might have had a diagnosis that was literally life-changing. They might have had unexpected job loss, just all of these tragedies and all of these challenges that happen in life. I was confronted every single day in my job with people who were confronting exactly these same things, these life challenges. A lot of times the things that no one expects, but that happens anyway. And I really, really was looking at, you know, I can't wait till I retire. I can't wait another 10 or 12 or 15 years to do the things that I want to do, because tomorrow is never, ever promised. And I wrote my goals out, and I wrote them on the back of my door in my bedroom. And it was, you know, to go where I want, when I want, for how long I want, right? That was just one of them. I had 3 of them. And so initially my timeline for my goals was like, okay, in 18 months, I really want to be able to do this. I was like, okay, in 12 months, I really want to be able to do this. Okay, why don't I just do it now? Like, I have the money in savings. I could do it. I don't like going to my job. It would be like the night before waking up to go to work, and I was kind of dreading and stuff, and I was like, nobody wants to live like that. So it was just at a place where it wasn't a bad job or anything. It was just maybe compassion, overwhelm, compassion, just, you know, talking to people in crisis every day. Really, I felt good about it. I felt like I was making a contribution, but at the same time, as someone who's kind of empathic, as someone who kind of takes on the emotions and things around them, it was tough. It was tough from day one. And so I knew it was time to go. I knew it was at least time to take a break. And so I'm going to just take a break for just a minute and collect my thoughts before I tell you about the really big wow moment where I just knew that this was meant to be. Okay, here's how I knew that beyond a doubt this was the right decision. And I'm going to try not to cry, but you guys, if you know me, you know I'm kind of a crybaby. Okay, I'm 52 years old. I was remembering back, my dad, who has passed now, had a heart attack at 52. He had a quadruple bypass surgery, and he, as a result of that and the care that he got from veterans hospitals, he lived another, 15 years? He lived till he was 67 and then passed. And he's been gone, gosh, 9 years or so now. So it was at 52 that he had his big heart attack. I always kind of knew that, but I hadn't really put the pieces together. Then here's the third thing. That was like the last puzzle piece. His mom, my dad's mom, so it would have been my grandmother, but I never knew her. She actually died at 52. She had a massive heart attack and died at 52. And with all these things together, you can see kind of the dominoes fall. The simplified life, the living below the means, the having the job you don't like, having the freedom of the time of having your children be older and not need you as much. How it all kind of came together. You know, this desire by Bob Wells and all that, having the job that I didn't want to go to anymore, that I used to love when I first started and I didn't want to go to anymore, and having every call almost on that job be like, you know, something happened and the plans I had for my life don't exist anymore. The plans I had for my life are all changed. And I thought, I can't wait. Tomorrow is never promised. Not to me, not to you, not to any of us. And I knew this is what I really wanted to do. And I thought, you know, I spent so much of my life in what I call survival mode. You know, in this, is there enough money to pay the bills? Is there just survival mode? You know, in a feeling of lack and in a feeling of not enough. And from that feeling, I wanted to be free of that feeling. I mean, honestly, you and me living free is really about just the freedom to do what I know I want to do, about the freedom to live and be vital and be alive and pursue those dreams. So I started rambling. I went down a rabbit trail. I'm going to pull myself back to the moment, back to the point. And that is that I keep coming back. When I started this journey, Arthur Ashe really inspired me. And his quote is, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And so I had this little chunk of money, right? And I thought, okay, if I spent, you know, half or all of the money on the nicest rig around, then I wouldn't have had the money to pay the rent and do all those things for the whole year of travel, right? So I needed cheap transportation. I spent like $3,400 on my minivan. I kept my Camry, but I spent as little as I could. I have a no-build. I built my own bed, but that's it. Like, things are just very, very sparse. Things are very, very centered around what is important and what is needed and what is not. And so, and I think following intuition, you know, when I was having this job that I didn't love anymore, I kept thinking, you know, send me a sign, universe, God, whatever, right? Send me a sign. Let me know that I should leave my job. And finally, I was realizing, you know, not wanting to go in every day is a sign. Somebody out there, I think, needs to hear that. That's a sign. And so when all the domino pieces just started to fall together, I could tell it was exactly what I needed to do. Now, worst case scenario, after a year, I will get a different job and replace the one I had. But I'm not going to do things based on making money. For this year solid, I'm not going to do things I don't want to do just for money. And that was the deal that I made with myself. I'm not going to go into survival mode, into worry mode. I've got this covered for a whole year, and I'm going to try to not even worry about it or think about it. I have a budget. I'm not like going crazy or anything. But I'm going to try to stick to it and just and keep going and not worry about that and not have so much worry. And plus I had to make a deal with myself about, you know, if I spend this money and I only have this much left, let's say retirement and savings and assets and stuff, is that going to be enough to still make me feel secure, to still make me feel like if there was an emergency or if I needed it or whatever, that I would have it and that I would be covered? And the answer is yes. Those are all questions I had to answer for myself. So that's kind of the story of why I decided to quit my job and spend a year out here traveling. And thank you so much for coming along for the ride and watching the videos. And I hope this helps somebody. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.